SEC Notebook with volunteer football coaching legend Ray Trail, Daily Times sports editor Troy Provo Heron, and veteran sports writer Marcus Fitzsimmons. Today, we'll catch up on the Vols in the NCAA basketball tournament. Donnie Moore will announce high school scores from around the area and then mark it down with Marcus Fitzsimmons, sponsored by Mandy B. Street Realty. Features the Blount County lacrosse team. Coach Mike Brisbane will join Marcus. The Anderson Lumber Company High School Player of the Week segment will be on the docket as our sports page panel relive Alcoa's state basketball championship. GoTee Sports Page veteran Donnie Moore and the panel discuss sports headlines from around the country before the Tennessee Smokies spotlight shines on the NCAA basketball tournament and the Lady Vols. And finally, the panel gives their Shelter Insurance Bowl predictions for the week. And now it's time for the UT Sports Report, sponsored by the Charity Group and the Klein Dental Arts SEC Notebook, featuring former UT assistant football coach Ray Trail, Daily Times sports editor Troy Provo Heron, and longtime sports writer Marcus Fitzsimmons. Donnie Moore is also with us. This past Thursday night, the Tennessee Vols' dream of making the Elite Eight ended as Florida Atlantic outlasted them down the stretch 62-55. Coach Trail, I was all set to preview Kansas State and Tennessee this morning, but the Vols didn't cooperate with me, and that possible matchup went in the garbage can. I had it all ready to go. I thought, by golly, this is going to be a great game, and they just folded. They folded right there in the last 10 minutes and really kind of put a damper on the season there at the end.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm getting where I expect it, you know. I mean, it seems like it happens that way all the time.
The dream turned to a nightmare.
Yeah, every time. Every time everybody gets their hopes up and it looks like we're going to do something, boom, we get hit right in the mouth.
But only one team leaves March Madness happy.
This is true.
Yeah, that's
68 teams go in, but only one leaves the tournament happy.
Yeah. Well, you know, I agree with that, but you know, you would think that you're in the tournament and you're moving along that you would get better.
Yeah.
And it seems like that we go along and then we just drop off the cliff.
Yeah. I can put a little bit of let's put a little cheer in the deal this morning. I thought, well, what can we say to kind of smooth this over a little bit? And I was thinking, well, let's go back to, you know, when I was in school. We weren't eligible as freshmen, and you played your sophomore, junior, and senior year. You had 3 chances to get in the tournament, and the only way you could get it in there was to win the conference championship. You know, and there was 10 teams in the league. You had to win the league to win it. There were 25 teams in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
And the second place team in the SEC got the bid to the NIT tournament.
Yeah.
Well, if this basketball team was playing during that era, they wouldn't be going They wouldn't have gone anywhere.
Nope.
They wouldn't have gone to the NCAA tournament because they didn't win the league. And secondly, they wouldn't have gone to the NIT because they didn't finish second. You know, they finished third. So, in that respect, and I am happy for all these teams that have gotten into the tournament of 68. And that's, you know, it's a great tournament. And you look back and you think, well, could John Wooden have won all of those championships at UCLA if he had to go through a 68 team tournament, Marcus? I don't know. But there's a lot of difference between 24, 25 teams in the tournament. I think they did expand to a 32, and then they went to a 48. But you didn't have to play near as many games back in the day. Huh?
Well, you would think it wouldn't make a difference to a Wooden team, but then again, we don't have any number 1 seeds left at this point, so there is something to play in that extra game or two. Yeah. Even if it's supposedly a weaker team, you still got to beat the weaker team when you're supposed to.
Yeah. Well, Donnie Moore, Tennessee's inconsistency showed up really down the stretch.
They did.
I mean, it just, you know, you talk about, well, let's just take some scoring. You know, Kumwa got, 27 points against Duke? Mm-hmm. 23 in the second half. You know, probably one of the greatest performances in the tournament for Tennessee over the years. He got 6 points. Yeah. He got 6 points the other night. And Vescovy, 14 points against Duke, solid there. He got, I think he had 6.
Maybe, yeah.
6, 7, 8 maybe, or not. I think he had 9. I think he had 9 points. I think he hit 3 threes.
Well, you know, the thing is, you look at Tennessee's people, just like you're calling off their scores and everything, look at Alabama. their top scorer down there the game before didn't score any points.
Yep.
Then he comes back and he gets
Miller.
20 something, and I mean, there's no consistency there at all. I mean, when you go into a game and you're the scorer, or what you're supposed to be the scorer, and you don't score, it's like taking the quarterback out of the game and putting a guard in there. You know, I mean, you're changing the whole thing changes, and somebody else has to step up, and we're so drilled in our offense that there's no, the only way they get the ball is rebound it, and maybe they can put it back in. Mm-hmm. But they're not in the sequence that goes around.
Yeah, Marcus, Tennessee led this game, well, 3-4, really up till the last 10 minutes, and that's when Florida Atlantic made their move. The first half, though, Florida Atlantic was 3 for 15 from three-point shooting, and Tennessee had them playing their game. I mean, they were playing water ball the first half, but Tennessee couldn't extend the lead. And even the announcers were saying, well, it's a 5-point game, and you're thinking it ought to be a 10-point game or a 15-point game, but it's just a 5. I think Florida Atlantic went into halftime, Marcus, feeling pretty good. And if you looked at the game, those shots that they missed, they're pretty good shots.
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't contested shots like you saw on the perimeter that Duke just didn't have any shots out there. These guys were taking the ball to the bucket, making Tennessee commit in there, whipping it back out. Duke played out on the perimeter. They just threw the ball around the perimeter, but this is Florida Atlantic attacked the basket, and that opened guys up on the outside. But they had good looks in the first half. The second half, those good looks turned into makes, Marcus.
They did, and I think that's the difference between a very talented but very young Duke team that we saw that got pushed around and bullied around and put out of their game versus a Florida Atlantic team that knew what they were good at and knew what they wanted to do. And honestly, the thing that came out to me as being the point where you started to worry was all those 50-50 balls that Tennessee typically would get by sheer effort and wallowing around on the court. They were not getting those. Florida Atlantic was getting to the ball quicker with those smaller, faster guys. And especially what Tennessee loves to do is tip that ball on a rebound, tip that miss, and, Vescovy or one of the smaller guys grabs it up on that tip for the rebound. Well, they were tipping it, but Florida Atlantic's guards were getting there to the ball and grabbing those, and they were getting second chance points that really they shouldn't have had if the bigs had grabbed the ball rather than trying that tip out that they've gotten used to doing.
Yeah.
The speed was what you're talking about.
Exactly right.
The speed killed, and it bothered Tennessee's. It bothered Tennessee's shooting. Vescovy was bothered. All the perimeter was bothered.
Yeah.
You could tell that they felt like they could shoot it. They weren't worried about the block, but they were more worried about turning the ball over because the guy was all over them, and they were that 6 inches away from their spot because they had to move to get the pass.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was consistent. They were not getting the ball exactly where they really prefer to get it.
Coach Trail, one of the things that I was impressed with Florida Atlantic was the fact that how they kept their poise throughout the game.
Yeah.
They did a great job of keeping their poise, especially in the first
Oh,
half.
I'll tell you
Because
what.
I'll tell you, that first half, if Florida Atlantic had not been playing some defense, you talk about their offense and their three-point shots the second half, they played pretty solid defense that whole basketball game, and that's what kept them in at the first half. But, they just kept their poise, and Tennessee, if they had expanded to 10 or 15 points that first half, that game could have been over the way Tennessee plays. But they kept it close and gave themselves a chance, and by golly, they got down to the last 5 minutes.
Normally, you would think that would be the normal thing to do if you were the kind of the underdog going in, is you want to keep the score as close as you can, and if you don't go out there and blow them out, you give them hope.
Yeah.
And they go in at the half and they say, we're just 2 shots down and we're back in the game.
And then what they do, they come out after the half and got the first bucket.
Yeah.
And then that really kind of set the tone for the second half. Donnie, Donnie, I want to talk a little bit about Tennessee. Their game is to stay ahead. Their game is to stay ahead, especially down the stretch where they can have a lead, go to the free throw line, close the game out. But the other night, they got behind. And they're not comfortable, especially down the stretch that I've seen all year. They're not comfortable in that situation. They start rushing shots. They get out of their offense. They can't take the whole shot clock, to take the shot. And they rushed. They panicked. And they don't have that go-to guy. They don't have that guy, okay, the game's on the line, let me have the ball. Did you see it that way or not?
I did, Mike, and you used a term that Coach Mears used to use right there. What was that term that you used? He said he called them front runners.
Front runners.
That's right.
Front runner, a little front runner in them. They play really well when they've got the lead and they're up and they're comfortable with that. But by golly, if it's nut-cracking time right down there at the end, they've lost several games this year in situations like that, and this was another example of it.
I agree.
So, I want to talk a little bit, Marcus, about the flagrant 2 foul on Plasvik. There were some issues in that Duke game with physical play, and some of that involved him. And and this has gone on pretty much all year long, with him. He's got that reputation. And then in this game, right there, I think it was in the last maybe 5 or 6 minutes of the game. It was a pretty crucial point.
Sure was.
Florida Atlantic went down, hit a layup, and then all of a sudden there was some confusion down on the other end. Nobody really knew what went on, and they called a flagrant 2 on Plasvik. And CBS showed a clip right there, and it didn't look like he really did anything. This looked like a person. Then they had to come back and say, well, this is what it was.
Yeah.
It wasn't what we showed you. It was this. And he really did get into that guy. I mean, he knocked him to the floor. I don't think there was any doubt they had to call it. And then Florida Atlantic went to the free throw line. They'd already hit the layup, and they hit one free throw and a 3. It was a 6-0 deal right there, Marcus. That was big.
It was huge because that was the point where the game had already gotten closer. I think Florida Atlantic had already taken the lead, and Tennessee had cut. I think cut it back to 3 when that happened. But I mean, you had a couple lines going on at that point. One is there was some banging going back and forth. Is that a flagrant 2? Probably, but by the book, yeah, it is. And it's also a case of second guy gets caught because there's an elbow before that he takes into the side that probably is what instigates that. Sure. And it was not the first one the 2 had exchanged. But more than that, I think it was more a product of some of the analysis post-game from Duke and the talk in the days that followed, that when that call came up, you knew it was Tennessee was not going to get their way with that.
And you questioned how physical they were going to let Tennessee play in that game after all the media talk.
Tennessee couldn't play that physical because they couldn't catch them.
Well, that's true.
They were moving around too fast for Tennessee to catch up to them and play physical to them.
Yeah,
I mean, it would be like they would have had to dumb those little roadrunner things and a wall pop up in front of the guy and have him run into it.
And they didn't run out of gas either, did they, Coach Trail?
No, they got stronger.
They got stronger.
As that game went along, I thought they got much stronger.
Yeah.
And looked a whole lot more to me. Now, like I said, I'm no basketball analyst, but the physicality of it, it looked like they were a much stronger team than Tennessee.
They looked to me like a team that when they see you to start breathing hard, they get excited about it.
Yeah, they turned on the steam. I was just impressed with the physicality of that team.
Yeah.
And they were all the same. There was really no big tall guy and all this. They were all looked like about 6'5", 6'6", or something like that. But boy, they could run, and they'd never stop running.
Well, when you're 33-4 going into the game, and they're now 34-4, that tells you something. It's almost unbelievable, Marcus, that one of their losses was to Middle Tennessee State.
You want to compare
They just went to Opry-Land down there. I mean, they wasn't worried about that.
I think they beat them 3 other times, but they lost
one.
Nobody
goes shopping at Opry-Land. Let's be honest here.
Yeah.
But, there were points of comparison. The Middle Tennessee game, then you had, I believe it was Mississippi State that they also lost to. I mean, you had some points of comparison, and it wasn't – all you had to do was look at the first weekend for Tennessee. No, these guys were for real. I mean, to me, it was the worst matchup Tennessee could have had. I would have rather them played Purdue because they would have gotten up for Purdue. It would have been like Duke.
Sure.
They would have. That's when Tennessee, this team peaks, is when you put them up against somebody with name recognition, where they can feel like they're the underdog. But when you put them up against one of those really good mid-major teams, this team's flat. They've been flat several times in this situation.
And Donnie,
They were flat.
I was looking at Florida Atlantic, and to me, I know what the record was, but to fans, they were Florida Atlantic. They were sort of like a game that maybe Tennessee would play at home in December. Like a North Carolina Asheville or somebody like that. And if this game was played at Thompson Bowling in December, Florida Atlantic, I think Tennessee wins the game by 20 points.
I think so too. I think there's no doubt.
But, on this given day, at this given time, in this given tournament, it wasn't to be.
Absolutely.
Florida Atlantic, the first half, I thought this was big too, Coach Trail. They had 9 turnovers in the first half. The second half, with the adjustments, whatever adjustments they made at halftime, they had 3 turnovers the second half. I thought that was major.
That was big.
Yeah.
And in basketball, of course, you know it better than I do, but those turnovers really eat on you.
Yeah.
And they eliminated those.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, to me, the second half, Florida Atlantic looked like they were in better shape than we were. I mean, those guys, they looked like they could play tight end in the pro football.
They finished strong.
Woo.
They really finished strong. Marcus, one question I had is I think going into the game, if I was Tennessee and I was coaching that basketball game against Florida Atlantic and having them pretty much outmanned inside, I'd be going inside. We were bigger inside with them. And it looked like that's where we were going. And we were getting good shots in there. Some of them weren't converted. Plosvik had some really good. I mean, all he had to do was put them in, but he didn't. But you could have posted up Kumwa in there. You could have posted up Phillips. I don't care who you could have put just about anybody down there to post up inside. But we started that way, had success early. And then it just seemed like we got away from it altogether and went away from it and went to the perimeter.
Tennessee's got a track record of doing that. This season especially, when, you have an inside game that's working and then second half it's like it's not there anymore.
Sure.
And they're successful when they stick with it. But, no, they didn't push it. They made the same mistake Purdue did. They went away from it.
Yeah.
And for some of the same reason, because some of Tennessee's turnovers were when they got that ball inside, and the ball never got up in the air because they took it away from the big guy. I mean, it was like a bunch of, dwarfs coming up with hatchets trying to cut down the giant because they came up, they collapse in so well and are so good at taking that ball away. If you do not immediately go up, you may not have the ball anymore.
Yeah. Coach Trail, let's talk about this basketball program where we're at right now. Had the big win over Duke. Had some big wins during the season. I mean, you beat Texas, you beat Kansas, you beat Alabama, you beat Auburn. I mean, we can go on and on. I mean, they had some big, they had some big wins. But what is this team going to be remembered for? Are they going to be remembered for those wins? Are they going to remember for beating Duke? Or are they going to be remembered by getting beat by Florida Atlantic, and that's what they're going to. That's the legacy they leave. They lost to Florida Atlantic, and they could have gone to the Elite Eight or maybe even the Final Four. Is that which one are we at here?
Just what you said. That's what else did they do? They just like you're saying early in the year, we beat teams that we thought would beat us. But those teams got better, and we were kind of all the way through the season. We were an up and down game. One game we'd look good, and the next game we'd look terrible. And you end up losing 7 games, and a lot of them were in the conference. And I don't, as a coach, I'd check my whole card there, because I tell you what, to me, that's lack of coaching, of maintaining. you can't be superstar every game, but you got to have a consistency. But the thing that I say about us is we can't make any changes. We're the same from the first game to the last game, and we're not going to change. And sometimes you have to change.
Yeah.
And I don't think that like I said, I'm no basketball coach, but I'd have to take that little bunch out behind the barn and give a lesson on them.
Marcus, you know, Coach Spurrier down at Florida, you know, when he'd have a team that preseason would be picked to win the league and go to the conference championship, maybe play for a national championship, and it didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd always come up with this. Well, we won a lot of big games, had a good record, made some big plays, didn't win anything. Didn't win the league, didn't go on. Does that kind of sum up this basketball team to a certain extent?
Well, like I said, that sums up almost every basketball team, because if you count the three, you look CBI, NIT, and NCAA, there's only 3 teams that end the game with a win, in the season with a win. So everybody goes home disappointed. Nobody feels like they got where they could have been, because if you lost the first weekend, well, we should have at least won one game. If you make it out of the first weekend, well, we should have at least made it to the Elite Eight. If you get to the Elite Eight, we could have made the Final Four. Why weren't we playing for the championship? You never get as far as you think you should.
Yeah.
The fans are never going to be happy with that.
But if Troy were here, and a lot of players that's played of late at UT, I've heard them comment, it's not what you do so much during the year, it's what you do in the tournament. They remember you for what you do in the tournament.
That's how you finish.
Well, if that's the case, then what you're saying, Coach Trail, holds true, because they're going to remember you for losing and not make it to the Elite Eight and a loss to Florida Atlantic. If it had been a loss to Purdue, not so bad.
Not so bad.
Not so bad.
But I don't think that's what they're going to remember. I think 3 years from now, what people will talk about and remember is beating Duke. Doesn't matter who they lost to, eventually didn't get there, but you get that was a signature win for this team. That was a blue blood that this team hardly ever sees, hardly ever runs into, and to beat them in the postseason was a big thing for Tennessee. That's a win that's something they don't have. I mean, I don't think they played them in the postseason since you were there.
Well, I look at Duke though, and say, that's that coach's first year.
Yeah, but you've got that win, and chances are you're not going to see him for another 20 years.
No, I'm just saying, that's his first year as coach. This guy we got is 6 or 7 years, and he got into the big deal there at first year. And, I mean, he was lacking. He's got a lot of young players. Duke had a bunch of young players on their team.
They've had 4 freshmen.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And I thought he did a great job of coaching this year over there.
This was also a Duke team, if you'll remember, that during the year they weren't even the top 25. They were one of those blue blood teams that everybody was saying, well, you know, they were kind of writing them off, them and North Carolina both.
Right.
But they had the late run with, I think, 10 straight wins there, and they won the tournament. But they didn't win their league.
Mm-mm.
You know, they didn't finish. Miami won the league, and then they caught fire. You know, down there toward the end of the year.
But they were. They were one of those dark horse picks. I mean, they were everybody's favorite dark horse to win the tournament.
Don't disagree with you, but in my opinion, it wasn't like a Duke team of old, is what I'm trying to say. This was a young Duke team that put some things together at the end of the year. Talented. And
a Duke team of old would not have been intimidated by Tennessee's physicality.
Yeah.
A Duke team of old would have been – Leitner would have come back and laid some people out.
Oh, yeah. You know, you talk about a first-year coach, and you talk about the coach of Florida Atlantic, and somebody – I'm going to tell you, Duke did not have the right game plan offensively to play Tennessee. Mm-hmm. They played Tennessee on the perimeter out there. They didn't penetrate with the basketball. Tennessee was just able to switch on the outside because all they did was rotate the ball on the perimeter. Yeah. They got no shots out there. Boy, you start penetrating against Tennessee, and you look back on the year. You look back on the Texas A&M game. You look back on the Kentucky game. Those teams were successful because they penetrated the ball against the Vols. They kicked it back out. They forced them not in those situations where they could switch as much, and rotated then the ball on the outside. And that's why they were successful.
Right.
Duke, I just looked at I looked at their offense, and I'm thinking, man, if you're going to run this all night long, you're in big trouble because you're not doing anything with the ball except passing around the perimeter.
Mm-hmm.
So, but anyway, I don't want to take anything away from Coach Barnes because he's a great coach. He wins a lot of games during the season. He's won games everywhere he's went. He's a Hall of Fame coach. But I got to ask this question. He's not been very successful in the tournament, Marcus. Why?
You know, his style doesn't exactly translate to its biggest weak point is a hot team. A hot team that can score the ball, where it doesn't matter how much you defend, if it's just going to be somebody's night, which is what the tournament is basically built around, that does not play in. That's the kryptonite for his defensive effort. Because if you're going to put all that effort in there and the guy's still going to put up 24 against you, you're going to lose that water ball.
Yeah. Well, and we've talked about this before on here. You know, coaches in football and coaches in basketball have changed. We've talked about how basketball is changing from a defensive game, Donnie Moore, to an offensive game. People are scoring. They're going up and down the court. Look at that Michigan State game and that Kansas State game the other night, 98 to what, 94, whatever. I mean, it was a fun game to watch. Yeah. And those are the kind of teams that a lot of kids like to play on.
Well, yeah.
But and in football, coaches that have been successful have changed with the times. Coach Barnes, Donnie, pretty much the same coach he was when he came in here.
He is.
Probably the same coach he was when he was at Texas and Clemson, defensive coach. He's like the philosophy, well, you know, offense sells tickets, defense wins championships. Mm-hmm. But is that the case now? And
we've talked about this before, Mike. How are you going to get players to come play for you?
Yeah. Yeah, and transition game. You know, I mean, if you can't get any easy, but he got no transition game in any games that he had in this tournament or practically all year. Now, granted, you lost Zakai Ziegler, and that was Marcus,
huge.
That was huge. And we can't emphasize that enough because he gave you some penetration off offense, he gave you the outside shooting, and he gave you the close at the end of the game with his foul shooting ability. He was a huge loss, so we've got to emphasize that, at the end here,
I mean, it's a factor you have to put into, but at the same time, we've always said next man up. You adjust, you compensate. Tennessee's a better team with him, though, at the end of the day. Tennessee probably pulls out, but that's if, maybe, when, then end of the day you're still going home early.
Yeah. Well, if you're looking at the NCAA tournament and big upsets, you're looking at Purdue getting beat by
huge
Fairleigh-Dixon, right? That's who they lost to, Fairleigh-Dixon.
Yeah.
That was the huge upside. And in Virginia getting beat by Furman. That part. But, you know, this loss with Tennessee to Florida Atlantic, I think, has probably got to rank as one of the top 3 losses in the tournament, doesn't it?
I would take Alabama's loss last night.
That was a big upset.
To me, that was the overall number 1 seed. I don't think I think that busted just as many brackets.
Yeah. But San Diego State is somebody in the past out there that to be reckoned with. They've been pretty strong in basketball out there.
Yeah.
But it's still a mid-major. I mean, San Diego State, is that really – are they playing on a higher level than Florida Atlantic?
Yeah. They may not be mid-major much longer because with all this transition that's gone on with those teams going to the Big Ten, I think San Diego State's going to the Pac-12.
Yeah.
I think that's where they're heading, especially with what they've done in basketball here and their football.
Well, the way things are lining now, they could be in the Big East.
Well, that's true. That's true. Plane travel and distance doesn't mean anything in this day and age. Hey, it's time to turn the page, and next up is the local scoreboard with the Donnie Moore and Mark It Down featuring Marcus Fitzsimmons. You're listening to the Goatee Sports page, and now stay tuned for the best in local sports.
For over 90 years, Anderson Lumber Company in Alcoa has proudly served and supported our local communities. Locally owned, so the money made here stays here. Whether you're renovating a kitchen, bath, new floors, doors, or windows, Anderson Lumber is so much more than a lumber store and can take care of you from design to install. We welcome you to visit Anderson Lumber in Alcoa for all your home's needs, or shop over 67,000 items online at AndersonLumberCompany.com. Anderson Lumber since 1925.
Make the big play with MVP Money Tools from Knoxville TVA Employees Credit Union. With KTVA ECUs, contactless debit card, direct deposits that hit up to 2 days early, credit cards that earn cashback reward points, and loans with competitive rates. Add all 4 MVP Money Tools to build your financial roster. It's everything you need to win financially.
Join us now.
Federally insured by NCUA. Equal Opportunity Housing Lender. Restrictions may apply. Call for details. 800-467-5427.
Aubrey's is known for real comfort, real food, real good. But remember, Aubrey's is also really into Blount County. Aubrey's Maryville has been a strong supporter of local schools and sports programs for more than 15 years. From baseball to football, dance teams, and marching bands, Aubrey's has helped schools and youth programs generate thousands of dollars. It's easy for us to do because it's the right thing to do. So the next time you're looking to choose a place to eat, we hope you'll choose Aubrey's. Real comfort, real food, real good. See what's on the menu at aubreysrestaurants.com.
We all want our loved ones to be safe. Denso in Maryville is at the forefront of creating technology for safer vehicles. Join the automotive industry with Denso in a fast, challenging, clean, and safe environment. They offer great benefits and competitive pay, as well as a convenient on-site healthcare facility, cafes, fitness center, and more. Start your future now. Entry-level production positions start at $16 an hour for second or third shift. Visit densocareers.com/Maryville to learn more and apply. Klein Dental Arts is your new home for compassionate, worry-free dentistry. You can see Dr. Todd Klein and his staff at their dental home at 1905 West Broadway Avenue across from Weigel's. Klein Dental Arts offers complete dental care for the whole family, including 24-hour emergency care, flexible hours, and thoughtful care for patients with dental anxiety. Let Klein Dental Arts be your new dental home. Discover the difference and find your smile again. Call today at 983-0941. Merlin's Music World in Maryville is owned and operated by Dylan Davis and has been a fixture in Maryville since 1987. Guitars, amplifiers, lessons, sound system, and video system installations are products available at Merlin's. Merlin's also offers a 24-track digital recording studio featuring audio engineer Rusty Chambers. Visit Merlin's at 1920 East Lamar Alexander Parkway or call 977-0093.
Hey, welcome back to the Bluetick Tavern in downtown Maryville. This is Mike Edwards along with the rest of our broadcast crew, and now it's time for the local scoreboard, sponsored by the Mandy B. Street Realty. Donnie Moore, good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
Yeah, and got some scores. I guess it's springtime.
It is. We got the spring sports in full swing now.
Yeah,
So
it's warming up out there.
It sure, boy. I'm so glad too. Old man Winter hit us hard last week.
Not
so
kidding.
we got some spring sports on the way here. Sponsored by Mandy B. Street Realty, and here is your local scoreboard. Yesterday we got some baseball games on tap. Seymour hosted West Ridge last night and took one on the chin, 13-5. Greenback traveled to Northview Academy, and Greenback lost this one 7-3. In other baseball action, Heritage hosted Gibbs yesterday evening, and Gibbs won this one 3-1. Another tight game over at Heritage. Maryville hosted Halls and blanked Halls 9-0. And I think that's about it for baseball action last night. I think Alcoa played too, but I didn't get a score from Alcoa, so don't know that one. Lots of softball action last night. Didn't get a Greenback score. Greenback traveled to Monterey. Hope they didn't get caught up in any of that stormy weather last night.
Well, they just slid right down the plateau into Cookville, so
They
let's
sure
hope so.
would. You got that right. So hopefully they were successful last night. Heritage had 2 games last night and won 2 games. Congratulations to the Lady Mountaineers. Played Seymour and beat Seymour 13-1, and then later on beat Sequoia 5-1. So
wind was blowing out.
Yeah, it must have been.
Only on the home side of the inning, though.
Yeah, there we go. Maryville traveled to Powell last night, and Powell won that one 4-2. And William Blount traveled over to Knox Central and was successful over there at Central 7-5. We got some baseball action going on today too. You can travel over to and catch a baseball game today. Greenback is going to Coalfield at 2 o'clock. William Blount goes to Knox Grace Academy also at 2 o'clock, and Maryville hosts Webb Bell Buckle today at 2:30. So if you want to catch a game, you can catch one at home over at Maryville. NLIs this week, National Letters of Intent signed. There were 4 from William Blount High School. Dylan Stewart signed with Bryan College to continue his academic and athletic career. He signed a letter of intent to play soccer at Bryan College. Riley Everett of the Govs signed to continue his basketball career at Covenant College. Riley Forrester is going to continue his golf career at UVA Wise. And Rachel Carpenter from over at William Blount is going to continue her softball career at Tennessee Wesleyan University. So congratulations to those governors. And also from Seymour, Bailey McCoy signed with Milligan University to continue her athletic and academic career to play women's basketball.
Lady Buffs.
Yeah. So congratulations to those area athletes.
Yeah.
To continue their careers in area colleges.
We had Bailey on here a couple weeks ago.
We did, didn't we?
And continuing the family legacy. Her mom, great guard over at Maryville College in the 90s.
Yeah.
Had a great career over there. One of their scoring leaders, if I remember correctly. So good get for Milligan to secure her and bring that into the program.
No doubt. I like that. Lady Buffs. Good job. You're listening to WKCE 105.1 FM and 1180 AM, Mid-Century Radio, and now I'm going to hand it off to our veteran sports writer Marcus Fitzsimmons for his feature, Mark It Down.
Well, thank you, Donnie.
You're welcome.
So we have special guests this morning.
Good.
And
we like special guests in the house.
One where I'm hoping we get a big following on, because this is not one school in particular. We have the Blount County Lacrosse Bulldogs joining us this morning. Coach Mike Brisbane's brought in a couple of the players. Coach, let me start with you here because we've had several of the girls lacrosse programs on, but now the guys are kind of taking a step forward, and so kind of give us looking at the roster, you're pulling from all 4 schools.
Yep.
So how does it kind of work? How do you recruit, and how does this kind of working for you guys?
Initially, it was me relying on these guys. Bring friends, anybody that wants to try it. And usually when those guys get out and they get a stick and it's day one, they fall in love with it. It's different from really any other sport. It has a lot of similarities to different things, but at the end of the day, it's played totally different. So it's really the players on the team recruiting 2, 3, 4 guys to come out and try it, and usually 3 out of 4 stay and end up holding through with it. And we started my first year, I think, with like 15 guys, and our roster this year, we started the season with like 30-something guys on the roster. So it's been pretty awesome to see it grow and progress.
Now, if I understand correctly, it's gotten to the point where it's not just one team. Now you've got like Pee Wee, middle school, JV, and varsity playing. Is
Correct. Correct. Yep. Middle school's playing today. But we got a Pee Wee team, 10 under right now, and hoping to add a 12U team as well. In my opinion, that's how we grow it. It's really hard at the varsity level to bring players in that have never played before, and they only have 1 or 2 years to learn it. It's not something that can be really learned overnight unless you dedicate yourself. So starting them at Pee Wee and then having them advance through it's going to elevate the program and the sport.
Well, you brought a couple of the captains in, so I'm going to let you do some introductions here.
Okay.
Go ahead and introduce these guys and tell me how you got them involved.
Yeah. Yeah, so Ethan Ewing, Adam Jones, both from Maryville High School. I believe they were both recruited from a former player that's playing at the next level now, and they were friends with him. I think at first it was just a trial and error for them just to see if they liked it. And I believe they both fell in love with it and really dedicated themselves. They joined the team last year, late fall last year, and excited that they stuck because we went to a tournament and we got it handed to us all weekend long in the tournament. But they stuck through it and became the cornerstone of the program, and have helped in the recruiting process, build the program, and now Adam's going to play at the next level at LaGrange. Ethan's got some offers, probably looking at attending Alabama, and they got an MCLA program there, so he'll probably be playing at that level too. So it's awesome to see it grow.
Well, Adam, talk a little bit about how you, what is it that you fell in love with as far as playing with?
Well, so I had played a lot of sports previously, and I had kind of put my foot in like every little sport and never really gotten involved to where I'd wanted to play it at the next level. And then when I found lacrosse, it was kind of a sport where it was all the best parts of all the other sports I had played put into one sport together. And so I knew that was something I could play for a long time after.
Now, if I remember correctly, you were a golfer at one point too,
Yes,
right?
sir. I was.
So is there any bleed over into this? Like, can you miss a shot on the golf course and want to start taking the stick up and chasing people around with it? Or
I think there's maybe a little bit, definitely the mental side. Mental side of golf helped me with lacrosse. But I think I played hockey as well previously, and I think that sport helped me the most correlate over to lacrosse.
well, Ethan, how exactly did you find lacrosse, and what exactly do you like about it?
I found lacrosse through my one of my best friends, Tad. Like Coach talked about, he's playing now at the next level at Barry, and yeah, he just kind of recruited me through being friends with him, and kind of the same gig as Adam. I just played a lot of sports and found lacrosse I love it. I love it.
So you're defender, basically, right?
Yes, sir.
Is that the best translation if I'm trying to put it in soccer terms?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
So, I mean, do you get to beat people with the stick? Explain a little bit about what the job is here.
More or less, kind of beat people with a stick, but yeah, that's how you play defense. You just kind of stay in front of them, and then you can check them with your stick, but you can't really. It's called a slash. The penalty is called a slash if you hit them like somewhere other than the stick, or if you hit them in the back, it's called a push in the back. But yeah, you can use your stick as kind of you keep your area between you and the guy. So yeah, that's how you play defense.
You know, just watching this, it seems like it's very hard to defend because people can whip that ball from all over the place. What's the process here where you're trying to stop? I mean, is there a correlation like basketball where you try to block a shot or defend somebody? What's the lacrosse equivalent is trying to defend?
Okay, so if you're playing a man, you're in your man, and if you get beat, you have a teammate. It's called a slide, and basically they'll come help you out and come hit the guy. But what was your question again? I'm sorry.
Like how do you keep them from shooting? How do you stop them from scoring? What's like?
It's kind of hard. It's an offensive game, but I mean you try your best. But the offense, if they move the ball correctly, they should be able to score every single possession. But the defense, I mean, you try your best. Good communication goes a long way with defense as well. If you can communicate good and all your teammates are gelling together, you can have some really good defensive possessions and get some stops that way.
Adam, you've got, according to what Coach passed me earlier, 9 goals, 2 assists in the first 2 games. So
yes, sir.
You obviously know how to score. Working against these guys, I mean, if you all haven't played this your whole lives, is every practice still a learning experience? Is what you can do score-wise and how you break through a defense?
Oh, absolutely. I think every practice, even me, myself, and the rest of my offensive teammates, we're learning every single day, figuring out new ways to beat the defense, what doesn't work, what does work. what works on different defenses, whether it's a zone or a man. I think all of us are learning every day from each other and from coach.
So y'all are both at Maryville, but when you get out there, I mean, you have teammates that are every other high school. Does everybody get along? Is there an internal ribbing between schools, or is this just a whole new thing that's independent of some of those rivalries that might be at the high school?
I don't think so. I think we're actually closer than
We're a
maybe
family.
some schools teams may
It's
be.
a bond,
I
for
think
sure.
because since we are all 4 schools together, we're a year-round team. We get to play high school season and tournament season too, so summer and fall. So I think I'd say we're almost closer than a lot of high school sports teams. Like, we don't see each other as, oh, he goes to this school or that school. We're just all playing on the Bulldogs. So.
Well, Coach, that brings up one of the questions that had popped into my mind is, after 2 years of waiting, TSSAA finally got around to sanctioning lacrosse. And I think when this initially started, we were talking about them sanctioning girls lacrosse. And it's taken them so long, it's truly become a co-ed sport in the state. What does that do to the team? Will you all still be allowed to compete as a co-op program, or what's it shaping up to look like?
Yeah, so right now we have some irons in the fire. We got a couple schools interested in it, and essentially we'll kind of pass the silver platter to them with all the equipment, the guys. So the way that we understand it so far with the TSSAA is, let's say School A adopts the program, they're the nearest program. So even if you go to B, C, or D school, you'll still be able to play there. You'll be able to play at the closest school. Let's say nobody gets it, then we can stay as a co-op, but we would still have to split into basically a city school team and a county school team. In the past, that would have hurt us immensely because we were so diverse with our program. I mean, we'd have 5 guys from every school. The program has kind of led itself to be 90% Maryville guys. We have a couple Alcoa. Like, after this senior class, I have 1 Alcoa guy, and then I think it's 23 Maryville guys on the roster. We're expecting some guys coming up that'll be heritage and whatnot from the middle school side of it, but we're primarily the Maryville side. So with that said, we'll still be a program looking to convert the Bulldogs to more of a travel team during the summer months. But as far as we understand, everything will be good, and nobody will have any negative impact. They'll have a place to play if a school adopts it. If not, then we'll continue going as a club program, and we'll still be able to play. You just don't get to play for like a playoff or championship.
Okay, one of the things I was reading about this, and I'm going to pull on your expertise because you played the sport your whole life, right?
Yep.
So one of the sticking points that kept coming up when I go back and look at some of the meeting notes that have taken place over the last 2 years was paying for the officials and setting up a fee process, but it kept coming up that you typically would not have the same officials working a girls lacrosse match as a boys lacrosse match.
Correct.
I did not. I assumed it was like basketball and soccer. I assumed the rules were the same.
No.
What's the difference? What is
everything? Literally everything is different. Their sticks are different. They don't have a pocket or very minute pocket. Their field structure is different. They can check, but at a far lesser scale is what something like Ethan could do as a deep hole. The game in its entirety is different, and I think if you were to ask a lot of the girls players, they would rather play the men's style rule, and they'd rather pad up and be able to hit and play all at that level. And there are some girls that play because they don't have a girls program, so they'll play. We have some peewees and middle school girls that play on the boys team, and they use boys stick and they play, and then eventually they get to a point where they have to split if there is a girls program. But they are everything about the game, the way they face off, their field division, their scoring. They have like penalty shots where we don't have that. There's really not much that's similar within it.
So if I'm going to make a comparison, this is like the guys are playing basketball as we know it now, and the girls are playing a version of basketball where it was 3-on-3 and they couldn't cross the half-court line and all of that 40 years ago. It's just a totally different game.
Totally different, yeah.
But it's the same field size. Like, you can still use the same field?
For the most part, yeah. It really depends. There's a universal field rule where you can set the field up, and they use similar lines, but they have an 8 and a 12, as they call it. They're different zones on the field. There's ways defense can be played within those zones, and there's way offense can be played in those zones. We don't have any of that. Like, I can play defense at midfield as the same way as I can behind the goal. It really is totally different. It's odd to me that they're both lacrosse and they're played totally different. Yeah.
Okay, so if you were following that, that's been the problem.
Yeah.
Is getting the officials, getting them from game to game, because just like there's an official shortage in general, lacrosse is really no different.
I believe we have 4 right now for all of East Tennessee, 4 officials for lacrosse.
So, getting them paid, getting the fee structure put up was a big part of this initial problem in getting TSSA approval. But that said, Coach, now if I read your bio on the website right, and I'll admit where I got it from. Played in Syracuse since you were little.
Yep.
Only been coaching here 3 or 4 years?
Yep. I've been with Blount County 4 years, and I coached a Knoxville team my first year coaching.
So, as a player and coming to an area that really isn't living and breathing lacrosse, what's it been like? Because you're basically introducing a new sport in a lot of cases.
It's had many hurdles and roadblocks and detours along the way, but it's been awesome because I haven't had to take over something that somebody else had and kind of try to navigate that path and also create it the way that I should see it. I've been able to really do it my way with some outside guidance and reflection on my own way of doing it, but it's been really fun to do that and build that Pee-wee, the whole program. And I got former players coaching the Pee-wee and the middle school, which is really cool. So it's been challenging. Obviously, like every year you lose, you recruit a bunch of guys in, and you'll get like 8 seniors that have never played, and then they're gone. And then you're like, okay, I need that roster next year. So you're bringing new guys in, and that's why I really strive to have it be a program. And these guys aren't recruiting new guys, and you got somebody that's a college level player playing right alongside with somebody that it's their 3rd day at practice, and it's really tough for him to progress when we're trying to get this person being able to pass and catch the ball. That's been the biggest challenge as a coach.
So you've had some success. So you've got a lot of players that have come through this program and are playing in the college level.
Yep.
It seems like the colleges are now ahead of the high schools as far as adopting men's lacrosse. Is that true to say?
100%, yeah. We were just talking over there that if the SEC programs ever truly adopt it as a scholarship sport, lacrosse in the Southeast will just explode in a positive way. It'll be great. They're all MCLA, they're all club teams, but you essentially go there and pay to play at most of those levels, and they usually have rosters of 50 or 60 guys, and that's not 30-man roster at that level is, in my opinion, is ideal. You got 20 guys that aren't playing. They're practice players, and they're there to wear the jersey. And I'd love to see it become a scholarship sport, and then you'll start getting more D2 and D3 programs in this level too, and it'll just explode in Southeast. And I think the Southeast, weather-wise, climate, region has the ability to dominate lacrosse. Like the hotbed is that New England area, and then like your Maryland, North Carolina area. It's growing rapidly, but I think the Southeast could really come in and just dominate the game of lacrosse quickly.
Well, I'm gonna go back to the players, but I've got one more question I want to put on you.
Okay.
Right here. You've got to have a lot of experience in converting other guys who excel in other sports becoming lacrosse players.
Yep.
Who makes the easiest conversion? Is it guys who have swung a baseball bat, guys who have swung a golf club?
Basketball players.
Basketball players.
Yep, because there's a lot of the way that you move within the field, the way that you play defense, or if you're a point guard or shooting guard and you're kind of attacking that defender, a lot of it's the same. You're trying to get that guy off balance or that defender to move one way so you can cut a different way. And as far as a defender, you're playing defense. You're trying to take their weak link way. So maybe they're a right-handed player, so you're trying to force them to their left, or you know what hand they shoot with, so you're trying to force them to the opposite. So I would say basketball translates the most. However, I think you were a swimmer before, golf. Obviously, they've all played other sports as well, but we've got guys that have not played any sports. We've got football players. We've got some baseball, some soccer. Wrestlers are also a great transition because they're gritty, but two, they can do some things like face-offs and some defensive things that not all guys necessarily want to do. Well,
before we get out of here, Adam, I want to touch real quick on, you made the commitment to LaGrange, signed with them. What kind of stuck out about the Panthers? Because I see you're sporting the gear today.
Yes, sir. So I went to a showcase in Alabama last summer, and that was kind of my first attempt at getting recruited for college. And the coach at LaGrange was the first person to start talking to me from the very beginning, and kind of stuck with me through the whole process from last summer all the way until I believe it was February that I committed. He was just talking to me almost every single week, communicating with me. He came to one of our games in Nashville. Like he was very great in recruiting me, and they're a new program, kind of just like us. It started in 2019, so I think that program's going to grow with my class because I've got a really big class this year, and I think we're going to do some big things there. So that's what drew me to there.
And Ethan, not to push you on the spot, but still deciding about what you want to do, or
yes, sir,
fielding offers? What's the status?
Yes, sir. I've decided I do not want to play at the next level, but I may be attending the University of Alabama, and I will be playing for their club team if I go there. So I'm still very interested in lacrosse, but not at that D3, D2 level.
Okay, Coach. Quickly before we have to get out, tell people where you all play and where they can come see you all in action.
Yeah, so we play at Friendsville Elementary. Our next game is April 15th. We play a team that we've not been able to get past yet. I think this is the year for us, West Knox. And that's a rivalry game. That's the team I started coaching in Knoxville. But Friendsville Elementary is where our Pee Wee Middle School and varsity all play. And if you got a young person that wants to play, it's not too late for them to come out and try.
And they can find you online pretty easily. I was able to just Googling Blount County lacrosse, and y'all came up pretty close to the top.
Facebook, Instagram. We got a YouTube page where all our previous games. We don't do anything else on YouTube, but it's all our previous games if somebody wants to watch the game.
Well, we appreciate y'all coming in. We wish y'all the best of luck, guys. Best of luck at the next level.
Thank you.
And
thank you for your time.
Mike, we'll go ahead and turn the page.
Okay, Marcus, thanks a lot. Hey, we'll take a time out here, and when we return, the Anderson Lumber Company Player of the Week segment will be up. You're listening to the Goatee Sports page, Blount County Sports Voice, and now stay tuned for the best in local sports.
The Bluetick Tavern is home to the tastiest pizza in Blount County. Try our signature Broadway barbecue pizza, grilled chicken and red onions covered in mounds of mozzarella. Or sink your teeth into our one-of-a-kind chicken and bacon pizza, made with an olive oil base, grilled chicken, bacon, red onions, and covered in Brussels petals. The Bluetick Tavern also has salads, sandwiches, and the area's largest beer selection. Regularly recognized as the best pizza in Blount County, it's the Bluetick Tavern, located at 128 West Broadway in downtown Maryville. The Roger L. Newman Company began in 1984 with a vision of providing Blount County with excellent heating and cooling service. Mr. Newman also wanted a real business. No gimmicks and no high-pressure sales. They just fix it or replace it. They want to stay within your budget and make you comfortable. Their motto still stands true today. Call us first, we'll be there. Call Roger L. Newman Company at 982-5446 or visit online at rogerlnewman.com. Cooler temperatures are approaching. Upgrade your furnace now for as little as $50 a month. Your newspaper? That's right. The Daily Times is your newspaper. tailored to where you live, emphasizing the things that affect you and keeping track of the people and players in our community. The award-winning Daily Times can be delivered each morning right to your door or inbox with the latest in local news and sports. For a 30-day free trial offer, call 981-1100 and begin enjoying your life, your times, every day with the Daily Times.
Dunkin' has what you need to conquer the day. So if you want to go from, I don't got this, to, I got this, well, then get this. A bold, smooth espresso drink from Dunkin'. Like a layered velvety caramel macchiato, a rich chocolatey mocha latte, or a creamy non-dairy oat milk latte. Because this day isn't going to conquer itself. No, you're going to do that. Take a sip of You Got This with Dunkin' Espresso drinks. Order ahead on the app plus earn rewards. America runs on Dunkin'. Price and participation may vary.
For over 50 years and 3 generations, the people of Blount County have trusted Stevenson Tire with their vehicles and their families. Our mission has always been simple: to provide quality products at reasonable prices with exceptional customer service. Featuring tire products from Michelin, BF Goodrich, Uniroyal, Bridgestone, Firestone, and Yokohama, Stevenson Tire also offers alignment and brake services at affordable prices. Stevenson Tire Company, 2411 East Broadway Avenue in Maryville. Call 983-1621 or online at stevensontire.net. Waters Equipment is your East Tennessee New Holland agriculture and construction dealer. Waters Equipment has been serving Blount County for 48 years and has 2 locations in Maryville for sales and service for New Holland equipment. Offering shop and field service for trucks and equipment of all brands, Waters offers equipment rentals for New Holland skid steer, Mini X, and tractors. Call 238-9000 for your rental needs. That's 238-9000. Waters Equipment New Holland, excellence in service. For over 9.
Welcome back to the Bluetick Tavern in downtown Maryville. This is Mike Edwards, and it's time for the Anderson Lumber Company Player of the Week segment. Marcus Fitzsimmons, we've got a state championship group in here this morning. Another state championship for Alcoa and Blount County. I guess if you drew the way that ended last week, that state championship, you couldn't have provided a movie script any better than the way that one ended, could you? Or not, huh?
I think you would have been challenged to come up with a better one. I mean,
yeah.
Watching the course of those 3 games from afar, that was a great tournament run.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we've got the guys in here to talk about it.
Yeah. The only thing that was missing probably was like Ollie. You know, in Hoosiers, remember Ollie, you know, when he hit the free throw there at the end of the game? Would be hitting the last back and say, I knew I had it all the way, you know. You know, maybe that was missing. I don't know, but, you know, last 2 or 3 seconds, that's pretty dramatic, huh?
Yeah, it is, and that's why I want to start off with the coach. 3 very different endings in the course of about 72-hour stretch there. Kind of break this down. Let me go through the scores first. But you open in the quarterfinals, get the 65-62 win over Pearl Cone. Advance on to the semis, beat Brainerd 71-68. Get to the championship game, beat Frederick Douglass 59-58. All 7 points in total over the 3 games. So it's not like these were blow-away games. But the first game you have to kind of survive. The second game you're trying to defend to lead. And the third game you got to hit it to win. That sounds like a recipe for disaster on a coach's nerves.
I honestly think, you know, throughout the course of the year, we've just been a team that's just found a way to win. I mean, there's been times where we're down double digits and we're coming over in third, fourth quarters and timeouts, and the guys are like, just stay together, stay the course. We're going to find a way to win this. And so somehow in the last 22, 23 games, that just kind of became part of our identity, and I'm sure glad it did. I'm proud that it did because it showed up in the biggest way down there at the state tournament. You know, in the Pearl game, I thought we did put together a good game on both ends of the ball, and, you know, fortunately we had a little separation at the end. They hit a 3 at the buzzer to actually make it 3. But the nerves weren't so much in play, but that was the game probably I was sweating the most. It's hard to go down there after a 10-day layoff and put together a good performance, and we did so against one of the best in Metro Nashville. The next day, to be honest, like, we had double-digit leads at multiple times, led double digits going into halftime, had a lead even late, and just for whatever reason got careless with the ball down the stretch. You know, I kind of down there owned a lot of that. Like, there were a couple times I thought we could have let the guys loose and go for a knockout punch, and instead we tried to play it safe, and it just cost us because we turned it over. We were fortunate. Boo missed a 3 at the buzzer, and we came away with a win. And then the last one, saved the most dramatic and the most exciting, I think, for last. We did not play our best basketball. I probably played our worst game we have for kind of 2 months. But, again, just kind of stayed the course, kept competing, kept battling, and stayed together. And fortunately, Javan sitting here with us, made a huge play at the end. Everybody in the gym knows who's going to get the ball. And, he's a kid that really embraces the moment, wants the ball in that moment. We'd drawn something else completely different, ended up kind of being a chaotic scene, makes a split of a half-court trap, drives it left, and really made a nice finish over a 6'5" kind of athletic defender. And, and then fortunately kind of executed our jobs on the last one, with 2.5 left to get the defensive stop and come away with a win.
Yeah. Hey, did you have a timeout left?
We did. We had one more.
I'm just curious, did it go through your mind maybe take a timeout right there before that play, or did you just think that he had enough momentum there? You saw that coming and maybe setting up would not be as good a play to go with,
to be honest,
and what you had?
Yeah, when we got the last foul, the foul that was 7, that would have sent him to the line. We had to foul multiple times. But when we got the 7th one, I wanted to ice the kid, make him think about it before he went to the line. So that was kind of the timeout. We discussed everything schematically, and we communicated to the kids. First thing, you just got to find a way to pull to the board, and then we're going to put it in Javan's hands. Again, we were trying to run like a box isolation set that we have in our package to get him downhill to his right hand and just trust our best player to make a play. But I like going against chaos rather than a set defense, so I didn't want to call another timeout unless we just kind of got in trouble or we couldn't kind of get it to Javan. Maybe we call one in that sense. But ultimately, as a coach, I've come to trust that we have good players and we have kids that are going to make good decisions. And, sometimes that trust pays off. He made a heck of a play. Then they called a timeout, and then we answered with one more timeout just to make sure we had our defense set and to make sure everybody kind of knew their job on defending the last 2.5 seconds.
Well, you brought Javan with you now, so let me ask you, you take us through that last play, because from what I understand, Coach called the free throw miss. He's going to miss it, and he's talked about setting up the play. How did it look to you? Because you're just at that point you're running it.
So in the timeout, he said the kid was going to miss the free throw, and then he wanted us to get to the box set. I ain't going to lie, in my mind, I didn't think the kid was going to miss the first free throw. So it went off the side of the rim. Eli got the rebound, and I got it, and 2 kids ran at me. So, if I'm running full speed and they running at me, I should be able to get around. And I got around, and I split. And then I got back to the middle and got to my left hand, and I just laid it up.
Did you ever think in your mind, man, I can't miss this one?
No, I don't know. I got it got quiet in there. It got tunnel vision. I don't know. I don't even remember what happened. I just remember celebrating after the layup went in.
Well, it was a great win. For you, 24 in the opener, 32 in the semis, 28 in the finals. I mean, 84-point tournament. You feel good about that?
Yeah, it does feel good. But ultimately, what feels the most best is we won the championship game.
And that's one thing that's been impressed, because every time you've joined us, you specifically have talked about the team philosophy, the we over me, the brotherhood. How big was that for you, the first game in the quarterfinals? Because you pick up the 5th foul, and you're kind of having to watch the guys finish off that first game.
That was big, but also, I've been with these guys the whole season. I trust them a lot. They trust me. So, when I knew we were up, I think probably 4-6, but I got fouled out, and I believed in them. I knew they could do it. They didn't need me to finish that minute, and they did that.
So, if you're looking out there, Adam, are you nervous? Are you trying to help coach give some direction? How do you have to, when you can't get off that bench and go back in, how do you handle that one?
I wasn't nervous. I mean, I trusted them, trusted the guys, but I just tried to encourage them and keep them level-headed, because I feel like when I did get fouled out, they got a little, down, So, if you go back and see, I pulled them together. I huddled up before I had to go off the court, and I just tried to encourage and help from sitting on the sideline.
Jordan, that first game, what was it like for the rest of the team? Because that can be really kind of deflating when you see him go to the bench with 5.
We was all nervous over there. We was like, God, Java got his 5th foul, and but he put us together, and we just finished it.
What was it like for this team to if you look at the photos that were in the paper, there was a lot of celebrating when this one finally ended and you all had the state championship. What was it like for this team in that moment when the buzzer finally went off and you all knew you had pulled this off?
We all knew that we had it, so we just celebrated big.
Who were you when it came off? Who were you looking for? Who was the first high five you were looking for?
Not really anybody. I would look for everybody. We just all ran out on the court and it was just a celebrated big.
Coach, it's a great win. It puts a gold trophy in that trophy case because there's lots of silver ones in there for basketball, but it's been a while since the gold one went in that trophy case. Has it struck you yet that when people talk about Alcoa basketball, your name's going to be with Vernon Osborne? I mean, it's the only two coaches to ever bring a state title home to Alcoa.
To be honest, that's just, really humbling to think about. I'm very blessed, to have this kind of group of guys that I was able to coach, and to kind of just have a front seat to all of it that played out. But I think when you state, Alcoa basketball, the first name that kind of comes to mind is Coach O. And a lot of people, that's going to be the first thing they say. And then you think of, dynamic players. Last time it happened, David, Marsh and, David Davis, all those kind of greats. And, we've talked a lot about the tradition of our program, and we've, talked a lot about the connection to the past. And now, what's cool is, we've cemented something, forever in our legacy. We're so proud to bring this gold ball back to our community. It means a lot to our community. I think basketball in itself, means a lot to our community. And just, for all that to kind of play out and happen, it's humbling. It's a blessing. It's definitely a God thing. And just kind of to him be all the glory.
One of the things I was impressed with your club was the fact that it looked to me like your team was well disciplined. I mean, on the court, your opponent at times seemed to be a little bit out of control, with their movements, with their shots, maybe didn't take as good a shots as they should have taken. And I think your club did a really good job. What bearing do you think that had on you winning the basketball game?
It's starting with Tyner. When you look at Tyner and then you go to Pearl, Cone, and then you go Brainerd and finish with Douglas, one thing we consistently talked about is we got to be a team that is disciplined, plays together, and finds a way to control tempo. And I think they all bought into a formula that was necessary to beat that type of team. A lot of times we're outmatched in speed, we're outmatched in athleticism, we're outmatched in size, but we have skilled basketball players. But the skilled basketball players can't go out and just isolate and do it themselves. They've kind of got to do it within that kind of scheme and with great togetherness. And I thought, we were fortunate to win a lot of those games because we executed down there. And, a common message, sometimes even when it wasn't going well, a lot of the guys are just preaching, hey, let's just get back to being us. Let's just get back to being us. And I think one thing that I'm proud what us meant to an extent was just doing our job at a high level together and being disciplined and accountable and doing that job every trip. So I appreciate you saying that. That, to me, is one of the best compliments somebody could kind of get is, that we did have a group out there that was able to do their job every single trip and do it with a great togetherness.
I think it was highly noticeable in the game. So.
And, it doesn't happen without buy-in from the guys. I mean, Javin, and Jordan, all of them. They're they're guys who were completely bought into what was necessary to win.
And I don't mean that as any disrespect for the other team because, they had a good squad. You beat a good basketball team and took it right down to the wire. But I think it speaks well of your club to have that attribute. I think it goes a long way. Yeah.
Coach, I'm going to make Donnie mad because I'm going to ask a long question here, but one of the things that we talked about that's you all had a late addition to the roster. Basically, in the postseason, when you get to make that addition, that can be like a huge you had all this run going, this synergy going, making that kind of addition at that point in the process. You got to kind of worry: what is this going to change? Is it going to disrupt stuff? How you all seemed to integrate it so well. It seemed to just be an immediate an addition rather than any subtraction.
Yeah, obviously I can't say enough about Brandon Winton and what he kind of brought to the table, starting in the district play in the postseason. And to be honest, like, I think it starts with just the unselfishness of our guys. One of the very first thing we did is I had a one-on-one conversation with literally everybody on our team. It started, with our seniors, and obviously, like Javan being our best player gets a lot of kind of input. But it was like, hey, look, if we explore kind of doing this, are you all in on it? Do you think it's the right decision? And I think ultimately, while the one-on-ones played out in very different ways, like, each kid communicated, look, winning is first, and this kid can help us win. And I think that's what kind of made one of the things that made this group so special is just the commitment to winning. And they were able to sacrifice a lot of things. Roles, change, minutes change, and guys were willing to just give all of that up because, he elevated us to a different level that gave us a chance to win. And then the second thing is you can't do it if you're not bringing in a kid of high character, and Brandon Winton is a kid of high character. He easily picked up on the schemes. He's got a different level kind of IQ, but, he's unselfish. And, his one goal was like, look, I want to try to help you guys win. This is going to be my last run at basketball-wise. And so, like, for me, yes, you're playing with fire a little bit because we've been playing really good. We had a team that's good enough with kind of Adam. But at the same time, he just kind of takes us to another level. He's a great defender. He's another kind of playmaker. And all of it just kind of came together, and you look good for doing it. But, again, that's a testament to our guys, and that's a testament for ultimately who he is. And it helps, in that, our best player, Javan, has a deep relationship with him that stems from a very early age and ultimately has a ton of belief in him that they kind of wanted to go try to do it together.
Javan, I'm going to close this now a little bit with you, but at this point, you've got the single game scoring record, single season scoring record, career scoring record. Now you've got the state tournament scoring record for the school. Do you get to take a break at this point and step away from basketball, or do you just turn around to AAU? What's the next? When does this settle in, and when does the next thing start for you?
Definitely not a break. My first AAU tournament is next weekend, so like basketball year round, so it's definitely not no break. But I love the game that much, so I'm willing to sacrifice everything to play it.
So what's your goal for going forward? Like, do you turn on the light as to my senior season? Is on the horizon now?
Definitely the goal is for school ball is definitely to go back and play in that championship game and win it. Individually goals, I definitely want to win Mr. Basketball, and just win again this year. Put another banner up, get another ring.
Well, we wish you the best of luck with that. Thank you for coming in and being awake. You've been nice and visited with us several times this season. We appreciate it, Coach. Again, great to see you. Congratulations on the championship.
Thank you for having us. Thank you for having us.
Guys, just from us, great job, and I think the community appreciates the effort you put out there and the products you put out there to bring home that trophy. And Mike will go ahead and turn the page, but I know you got one more.
I got one more here. He mentioned he wants to be Mr. Basketball, and Coach, I don't know if there's ever been any talk about this in Tennessee, but in Indiana, they have a Mr. Basketball, and they have an all-star team, and this has been going on since the 30s. And they have a series with Kentucky, a 2-game series in the summertime, and they pick the best players in the state of Indiana to be on that team, along with the Mr. Basketball, and Kentucky does the same thing, and they have a series. And I know in Tennessee they just picked a Mr. Basketball, and that's kind of where it ends. But would you like to see a series like that in Tennessee against somebody else, another state, for other players?
I think that's awesome, for a group of the best basketball players of Tennessee to represent Tennessee from across the state against another state. I think that'd be really fun for the kids, something to look forward to, and ultimately just something that would shine a light on Tennessee, because I think Tennessee at times gets overshadowed, especially East Tennessee, with how good the basketball players and teams are. I was glad to see between Hampton, Fulton, and Alcoa, East Tennessee basketball really represented really well, and we don't represent with how we did without good players. And one, I would like to see Javin have the opportunity to win Mr. Basketball. I think he's very deserving on every stage. Was tremendous down the stretch, and we don't do this kind of without him. But then just for him to get showcased on a different stage in kind of an all-star format, that would be fun to watch.
Yeah, in Indiana for years they had a college coach that would coach the Indiana Stars, and the same thing with Kentucky. Then they went to high school coaches. So if that was the case in Tennessee, there'd be a good chance that you'd be coaching that team in that series, and that'd be a great thing for coaches, and not only players but also coaches.
And it again would be a fun thing to be a part of, just to coach such high-level players.
Yeah. Well, listen, congratulations on your state championship and your summer and on down the road. We'll talk to you later.
Appreciate it.
Hey, it's time for a break, and when we return, it's Sports Headlines with Donnie Moore in the Tennessee Smokies Spotlight. You're listening to the Goatee Sports page, and now stay tuned for the best in local sports.
For over 90 years, Anderson Lumber Company in Alcoa has proudly served and supported our local communities. Locally owned, so the money made here stays here. Whether you're renovating a kitchen, bath, new floors, doors, or windows, Anderson Lumber is so much more than a lumber store and can take care of you from design to install. We welcome you to visit Anderson Lumber in Alcoa for all your home's needs, or shop over 67,000 items online at AndersonLumberCompany.com. Anderson Lumber since 1925.
Aubrey's is known for real comfort, real food, real good. But remember, Aubrey's is also really into Blount County. Aubrey's Maryville has been a strong supporter of local schools and sports programs for more than 15 years. From baseball to football, dance teams, and marching bands, Aubrey's has helped schools and youth programs generate thousands of dollars. It's easy for us to do because it's the right thing to do. So the next time you're looking to choose a place to eat, we hope you'll choose Aubrey's. Real comfort, real food, real good. See what's on the menu at aubreysrestaurants.com.
We all want our loved ones to be safe. Denso in Maryville is at the forefront of creating technology for safer vehicles. Join the automotive industry with Denso in a fast, challenging, clean, and safe environment. They offer great benefits and competitive pay, as well as a convenient on-site healthcare facility, cafes, fitness center, and more. Start your future now. Entry-level production positions start at $16 an hour for second or third shift. Visit densocareers.com/Maryville to learn more and apply. Klein Dental Arts is your new home for compassionate, worry-free dentistry. You can see Dr. Todd Klein and his staff at their dental home at 1905 West Broadway Avenue across from Weigel's. Klein Dental Arts offers complete dental care for the whole family, including 24-hour emergency care, flexible hours, and thoughtful care for patients with dental anxiety. Let Klein Dental Arts be your new dental home. Discover the difference and find your smile again. Call today at 983-0941. Merlin's Music World in Maryville is owned and operated by Dylan Davis and has been a fixture in Maryville since 1987. Guitars, amplifiers, lessons, sound system, and video system installations are products available at Merlin's. Merlin's also offers a 24-track digital recording studio featuring audio engineer Rusty Chambers. Visit Merlin's at 1920 East Lamar Alexander Parkway or call 977-0093.
Make the big play with MVP Money Tools from Knoxville TBA Employees Credit Union. With KTVA ECUs, contactless debit card, direct deposits that hit up to 2 days early, credit cards that earn cashback reward points, and loans with competitive rates. Add all 4 MVP Money Tools to build your financial roster. It's everything you need to win financially.
Join us now.
Federally insured by NCUA. Equal Opportunity Housing Lender. Restrictions may apply. Call for details. 800-467-5427.
Welcome back to the Blue Tick Tavern in Maryville. This is Mike Edwards, and it's time for this week's sports headlines with Blount County Sports Hall of Famer Donnie Moore. And Donnie, we got a few headlines out there, don't we?
We indeed.
Yeah.
Certainly we do, Mike. I dig around until I can find a few of them anyway every week. So here are today's sports headlines for us. Well, the World Baseball Classic came to a close this week with the gold medal game happening on Tuesday night at Lone Depot Park in Miami, Florida, with Japan taking a 3-2 game over the U.S. to win it all. 20 teams battled for the title, which was sanctioned by Major League Baseball. and is men's baseball's biggest global tournament. The WBC had been on a 6-year hiatus before this happening this year in 2023. You know, it hadn't happened in a while, so I think it was well attended and well viewed this year. You watch any of the games? Anybody? No?
No.
I watched a few of them.
Well, that's all you got to do. So, I mean.
Thanks, Ray. Oh, man. WBC coming to a close. Well, Rick Pitino is headed back to New York after agreeing to a 6-year contract to be the next men's head basketball coach at St. John's University. Pitino's college coaching career goes back to 1974, where he first served as a graduate assistant coach at the University of Hawaii. Then promoted to Hawaii's interim head coach for the last 6 games of the 1975-76 season as his first head coaching job. That was the start of one of the most successful careers in NCAA history. Serving at both the college and professional level, Pitino was head coach at Hawaii in 1976, Boston 1978 to 83, Providence 1985 to 87, the New York Knicks from 1987 to 89, University of Kentucky from 1989 to 97, the Boston Celtics from 1997 to 01, University of Louisville from 2001 to 2016, Panathinaikos, it must be, that's a Greek name, I assume. So he coached in Greece from 2018 to 2020. Iona from 2020 to 23, and now St. John's. He led Kentucky and Louisville to NCAA championships in 1996 and 2013, but Louisville's 2013 title was vacated after serious program violations, and because of the scandals, Pitino was fired in 2017. Now, at the age of 70, the New York native will spend the next phase of his historic career in Queens.
Yeah, Lou Canseco, you know, the former coach at St. John's. I think he's 95. He was at the He was at the press conference.
Yeah.
Yeah. I played against him twice.
Did you?
Yeah, I played against Canseco twice. And, played in the NIT and also the Holiday Festival tournament in New York in Madison Square Garden.
He was a good coach.
He was a good coach.
Tell you what, he must own a Allied moving company.
Pitino.
He's been around.
Yeah, he's been around. I guarantee you the transfer portal's hot with him right now.
You better believe it.
I'd say he's on the phone, and I keep looking at these teams that get beat out of the tournament, and all those players that are sitting on the bench are going, I'll be glad to get out of here because I'm going to transfer portal.
Yes,
you know, the ones that aren't playing.
And he's hot on their trail right now.
That darn St. John's next year will look like a United States All-Star team. What
Yes,
that going to look like?
Old Rick Pitino.
Yeah.
Well, the latest NFL mock draft has former Tennessee quarterback Hendon Hooker being drafted by the Minnesota Vikings with the number 23 overall pick. Hooker would be selected to become a long-term successor to Kirk Cousins, who becomes a free agent after the 2023 season.
Good Lord.
What do you think? Hooker in Minnesota.
It's just a reminder that Kirk Cousins is still playing in the league.
I know, really.
Somehow,
still viable?
Still somehow a starting quarterback
in
the NFL. And he's one of those guys that is just like, really? He's still playing?
Yeah.
He's still starting?
Uh-huh.
For a lot of money?
Uh-huh.
But
congratulations, right? If he does indeed get drafted this year, God, Hooker, you know, he blew out a knee and kind of dropped out of sight there for a while.
Hooker's going to, NFL perspective, he's going to be a project because you like his accuracy, you like his lack of turnovers, you like his mobility.
Yes.
But how that translates to the next level, nobody's going to draft him to be the starter this fall.
No,
he's a project starter. He's somebody you want to.
It said a long-term successor.
So I think for a team with established quarterback, there just aren't as many.
No.
But I mean, he could go that high. I could easily see him being in the second or third round as well.
I could too. Well, Willis Reed, former New York Knicks star, Hall of Famer, two-time NBA champ, died Tuesday at the age of 80. A 7-time All-Star, the 6'10" Reed was an undersized center, but played well with the big boys. He was drafted by the Knicks in 1964 with the 8th overall pick and played his entire 10-year career with the club. Often playing hurt, he retired in 1974 with a career average of 18.7 points per game and 12.9 rebounds. What was his claim to fame, Mike?
1970, the Knicks against
playoffs.
The Los Angeles Lakers, Game 7
sure
in
was.
Madison Square Garden. They didn't think he was even going to play. Had a bad leg, and they had him out.
Yep.
And he limped out there on the court, and he limped the whole game.
He sure did.
Guarded Wilt to Stilt Chamberlain. And
when he came out of the tunnel, there was just a thunderous
absolutely,
roar.
Absolutely. And he played the entire basketball game. And, of course, he had a pretty good crew with him. You know, he had
Bill Bradley
and Jerry Lucas and Walt Frazier and Dave DeBusschere. I mean, you know, he had a few players around him
That's
right there.
Names right there.
They just said, hey, we just want you in the game right here. Just play defense on somebody. Don't worry about scoring anything. But he hobbled around the whole game out there, and he became the guy of the hour when the Knicks beat the Lakers.
Yep, hit 2 mid-range jumpers, and then he didn't have to score again after that. They caught fire.
He
beat the Lakers.
He was a strong guy. Looked a lot more like a football player than a basketball player.
Like
left-handed,
lefty.
Yeah,
sure was. Yeah. Well, women's college basketball player of the year finalists were announced Tuesday of this week. They are Caitlin Clark from Iowa. Imagine that. Aaliyah Boston, South Carolina. Imagine that. Maddie Siegrist from Villanova, and Elizabeth Kitley from Virginia Tech. Those are the finalists right there.
That's 5 good ones. I'll tell you one thing.
That'd
be a good little team.
Sure would. And on the other hand, the men's college basketball player of the year finalists were announced also this week on Tuesday, and they are Zach Edey from Purdue, Trace Jackson Davis from Indiana, Jalen Wilson from Kansas, and Drew Timme from Gonzaga. Well, the leading candidates, by the way, that they say that the rumor has it are shoe-ins for the players of the year are Caitlin Clark from Iowa.
I think she'll win it
because of the way she's played in the NCAA tournament, and Zach Edey from Purdue.
Yeah.
Well, I'd vote for
Edey guy. I'd have to vote for the girl. I didn't really Purdue guy. I mean, he just was bigger and taller than anybody inside. That's all he could do was dunk it and flip around. He was not an outside shooter.
Yeah.
And
well, they'll have a girl and a guy. They'll have a women's player of the year and a men's player of the year. So.
But I would take the girl over him because I think
they won't have to.
Oh no, I know that, but I mean, if I were just picking one,
if you had to pick one, you'll pick Caitlin Clark.
I surely would.
I would too, Ray.
See,
she's prettier than he is anyway.
Oh yeah.
All right. Former Tennessee quarterback Joshua Dobbs has left Nashville and packed up for Cleveland. Signed a 1-year deal with the Browns worth $2 million. Doesn't sound like a whole lot of money, but hey, he's a backup quarterback. It's the best job in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know why he left Nashville.
And it's fully guaranteed.
Well, he got it made.
He does.
Well, it's Cleveland. They're famous for that sort of thing.
True that. It is. But it's fully guaranteed.
But he did great with, I think he proved something finishing off the season for the Titans last year.
Too.
He obviously proved something to Haslam and the Browns.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're backing up Deshaun Watson, that's not a bad gig.
It's not.
Because there are so many things that could put him out for a game or two to give you another shot. And it's an offense, when you're developing around Watson, it's an offense that he can play because he has a very similar style.
They do. Both of them have very similar styles. You are correct, Marcus. Well, that's all for this week's sports headlines. Now let's bring the Tennessee Smokies spotlight into focus. Back to you, Gunner.
Yeah, I'm back here with Goatee Sports Page, and this is Mike Edwards, and it's time to bring in Coach Ray Trail, Marcus Fitzsimmons, and Donnie Moore. And before I talk a little bit more basketball right here, Coach Trail, you asked me last week when Donnie was doing the sports headlines what the salaries were for race car drivers. Mm-hmm. So I did a little research on that.
He did a little digging.
IndyCar, now these are salaries. These are not winnings on top of salaries. But somewhere in the neighborhood of, and this is an average, IndyCar, $750,000 a year on the average. And NASCAR, around $900,000 a year. Formula One, it can be a range from $1 million to $50 million. Now that sounds like a lot, but your top drivers, Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen over in Formula One, they'd be in that $50 million category. And in NASCAR, $900,000 on the average, but you're talking about a Jimmy Johnson that could be up in the millions and a few other drivers like that. This is just the average. IndyCar, the $750, but if they was to win the Indy 500, let's say that they were in that $750,000 average, Indy 500 total purse is 10 to 13 million is the purse. So the winner would take home about a third of that money, and the winner's probably going to get at least $1 million or so out of that. But all said with that, compared to other sports, that's really not as much money. Putting your life on the line.
That's what I was
every time you strap yourself into a cockpit, that's a pretty big risk for this amount of money. Now, granted, the season's not as long. You don't have as many races and that type of thing. But especially in IndyCar, there's a lot of races in NASCAR and Formula One. But there's no guarantee that something's not going to happen in there, even though they've made it a lot safer now than it used to be years ago. So
I've always wondered about that.
Yeah. We talked about Tennessee basketball earlier, and I had a couple of things. I want to mention that because it's been so disheartening that Tennessee lost in the Sweet 16. Coach Barnes, it's really pretty amazing, Marcus, what he's done here in the time he's been here. If you go back to the 90s, this basketball program was in trouble. I mean, we couldn't even get in the tournament. There was no relevancy about the program at all. He's made Tennessee basketball relevant. He's made it relevant everywhere he's gone and coached. But they're filling the arena over there. They're competitive in the league during the year. They're competitive in the tournament. They won the tournament last year. He puts them in the NCAA tournament. So we've got to mention that. I mean, he's a great basketball coach, and Tennessee's lucky to have him. We got him at the right time. This job was opened up. There was a problem at Texas. This was the best job out there, and Tennessee landed him. And he's done a great job all the time that he's been here. But the tournament has been a tough go, and I think what made it such a tough go this year is it looked like this was the year. I mean, they beat Duke. They won the first game, and then they had Florida Atlantic, which a lot of people thought, well, that's a winnable game compared to what everybody else is getting. Mm-hmm. Looked like as the easiest game on the brackets in the Sweet 16 looked like the Tennessee and people got fired up about that, and possibly they could go to the Final Four. And that's what made it so disappointing, the fact that it was all there. And when you create that monster, people expect more from you. It's like football. If you win 8 or 9 games, they want you to win 10 games. They want you to go and win championships and go on. And he's kind of created that monster here, hadn't he, Monster?
He's created the monster. And I think you make a good point in that if we go back to when Rick came to Tennessee, you're talking about the aftermath of Tennessee being forced to part ways with Pearl, which wasn't what all the parties wanted. Most of them did, that was an NCAA mandated thing. So then you have a very bad hire that follows that looked good and then blew up before the season was over. And really, if you don't make the right hire after that season, then you can spiral down very quickly from the point where they were playing in the Elite Eight 2 years before to going back to those hard years. Bringing Rick in at that point and putting that program not going through what we went through with 2 decades with football avoiding that kind of fall off, and making the tournament every year. That was a huge thing. So we kind of crash on them a lot because we expect so much because we know they can play so well.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed this team probably more at mid-season when they were really rolling, and I just felt like they probably peaked a little bit in January, and some things caught up with them in, fatigue, injuries, that sort of thing caught up with them down through February and March.
Yep. The NCAA basketball tournament, Donnie, I'm going to hit you with this. All the number 1 seeds are gone. They're gone. They left last night.
Are.
And we've talked about the parity in college basketball. We've talked about it all year. There hadn't been that dominant team, that you would look to take it all.
Right.
There's been tremendous parity and all of the blue bloods. There's no Kansases, there's no Kentuckys, and there's no North Carolinas, and there's no Dukes left.
No Alabamas, no Houstons.
I've tried to make a little bit of sense of this. Do you think that it's had to do with the COVID and the extra year that players had? Because in blue bloods, a lot of them would take that extra year and say, well, I'm going to go in and play in the pros, whereas some of these other programs, the players took the 5th year, took the other year.
Yes.
And also the fact that maybe the transfer portal has come into play in all of this. That's even the ground, so to speak. What do you think?
I think it's a combination of both, Mike. I think both those things that you mentioned have played into this in a big way. The transfer portal has changed basketball for good, I think. And I don't mean in a good way. I think forever is what I mean. And I think the fact that COVID has changed things too. By giving the players an extra year, has benefited the what we used to call the mid-majors in a great way too, because they get their players back and they come back and they, because by golly, these schools that benefit from these mid-majors are coming back and getting these players back. They've got some good teams, and they've got some good teams that are playing deep into the tournament now.
Yeah.
So, COVID and the transfer portal have changed the way we play tournament basketball now.
Yeah. And the SEC, Coach Trail, no teams left. The Big Ten, which was heralded all year long, the SEC had 8. Big Ten, I think, had 8 or I guess about 8 too. But they got no teams left. The Big 12 and the Big East, of course, the Big 12 were pretty strong this year.
Yeah.
They got Kansas State and they've got Texas left.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the Big East has got 2 teams with Creighton and Connecticut. They've got 2 teams in. And the ACC that was much maligned, they got Miami in. No surprise here, Miami won the regular season.
Yep.
So, they're in, and they're and then the 3 other schools that are in here, you got Gonzaga and Florida Atlantic and San Diego State came from other conferences. So I don't know.
Got a good spread.
Got a pretty good spread right there. But the SEC and Big Ten, as far as the men's tournament goes, they're out. Now the women's tournament's a different story, and we can talk about that here in just a few minutes. But great games in the tournament. I thought the Michigan State Kansas State game the other night was just outstanding. I think that, to me, has been the best game of the tournament.
Ooh.
And I really enjoyed the Gonzaga-UCLA game the other night. Gonzaga had, a 9-point lead with 45 seconds to go and just about got beat. But there's been some exciting play. Huh?
I mean, there's been some really good games. As far as the quality of the games, I mean, there's always a few exceptional blowouts that aren't fun to watch. But a lot of these games this year have been fun to watch.
Yeah.
Even the ones where you really didn't care who won, some of those have just been good basketball and fun to watch games.
Hey, the Lady Vols, let's switch over to them. They're still in.
Yeah.
We've still got a basketball team in, and the Lady Vols, they're in the tournament, number 4 seed, and they're going to play Virginia Tech, a number 1 seed, and that's at 6:30 on ESPN. They've already played Virginia Tech this year. They lost a close game, and I think Rakia Jackson did not play in that game.
Yeah.
So a lot of high hopes today in their game. And the SEC teams that are left in the tournament are the same ones that really did well, Coach Trail, during the year. You got South Carolina, you got LSU, and you got Tennessee. They're all three of them are still in there, and those were the three best teams in the Southeastern Conference.
Right. And Ole Miss got beat last night.
They got beat by Louisville last night. But
no, I agree. That's the three best teams. They've been there all year long.
Yeah. And they've had upsets, too. Number one, Indiana got upset by Miami.
Yep.
Miami beat Indiana's men, and then the next night they beat their women. How do you like that?
I tell you what,
they drilled them 2 nights in a row.
I tell you, all the people in Indiana need to cancel anything going to Florida.
Right. And then Stanford got – it hadn't been a good year for Indiana.
No,
Purdue getting upset, and Indiana
Don't
women.
go to the beach.
They really thought Indiana –
No, we're not going to the beach.
They really thought the Indiana women's team was going to go to the Final Four, and then and Purdue too. So that it just hadn't been a real good tournament for Indiana up there. But Stanford also getting upset.
Yeah.
So there's been some parity in the women's game too. Of course, South Carolina's that team that kind of stands out, right? The blue blood of the women's deal is South Carolina right now. But Tennessee's got a rough haul. They got to play Virginia Tech, a number 1 seed, and then they got the winner of Ohio State, a 3 seed, and UConn, a 2 seed. So they've got
they got a tough way to go. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, if they move on, they have earned it for sure.
I'll tell you what.
But they'll be on ESPN tonight, ESPN 2, and that's a 6:30 start. So and LSU will play Miami. And South Carolina will play UCLA, and then Louisville will play Iowa.
I like Iowa. I tell you what, they got a good team.
Yeah, and you've got Notre Dame and Maryland. Notre Dame's still in, and their program has been. Well, it's kind of a blue blood of women. So they got some blue bloods in there. They got South Carolina and Notre Dame and Connecticut still in, and you could put Louisville up there too. Louisville's been kind of a blue blood. So a little bit opposite on the women's side than you've seen on the men. So, hey, it's time for a break, and when we return, the Shelter Insurance Bold Prediction segment will be up. You're listening to the Goatee Sports page, and now stay tuned for the best in local sports.
The Bluetick Tavern is home to the tastiest pizza in Blount County. Try our signature Broadway barbecue pizza, grilled chicken and red onions covered in mounds of mozzarella. Or sink your teeth into our one-of-a-kind chicken and bacon pizza, made with an olive oil base, grilled chicken, bacon, red onions, and covered in Brussels petals. The Bluetick Tavern also has salads, sandwiches, and the area's largest beer selection. Regularly recognized as the best pizza in Blount County, it's the Bluetick Tavern, located at 128 West Broadway in downtown Maryville. Waters Equipment is your East Tennessee New Holland agriculture and construction dealer. Waters Equipment has been serving Blount County for 48 years and has 2 locations in Maryville for sales and service for New Holland equipment. Offering shop and field service for trucks and equipment of all brands, Waters offers equipment rentals for New Holland skid steer, Mini X, and tractors. Call 238-9000 for your rental needs. That's 238-9000. Waters Equipment New Holland. Excellence in service. For over 50 years and 3 generations, the people of Blount County have trusted Stevenson Tire with their vehicles and their families. Our mission has always been simple: to provide quality products at reasonable prices with exceptional customer service. Featuring tire products from Michelin, BF Goodrich, Uniroyal, Bridgestone, Firestone, and Yokohama, Stevenson Tire also offers alignment and brake services at affordable prices. Stevenson Tire Company, 2411 East Broadway Avenue in Maryville. Call 983-1621 or online at stevensontire.net. Your newspaper? That's right. The Daily Times is your newspaper, tailored to where you live, emphasizing the things that affect you and keeping track of the people and players in our community. The award-winning Daily Times can be delivered each morning right to your door or inbox with the latest in local news and sports. For a 30-day free trial offer, call 981-1100 and begin enjoying your life, your times, every day with the Daily Times.
Dunkin' has what you need to conquer the day. So if you want to go from, I don't got this, to, I got this, well, then get this. A bold, smooth espresso drink from Dunkin'. Like a layered velvety caramel macchiato, a rich chocolatey mocha latte, or a creamy non-dairy oat milk latte. Because this day isn't going to conquer itself. No, you're going to do that. Take a sip of You Got This with Dunkin' Espresso drinks. Order ahead on the app plus earn rewards. America runs on Dunkin'. Price and participation may vary.
The Roger L. Newman Company began in 1984 with a vision of providing Blount County with excellent heating and cooling service. Mr. Newman also wanted a real business. No gimmicks and no high-pressure sales. They just fix it or replace it. They want to stay within your budget and make you comfortable. Their motto still stands true today. Call us first, we'll be there. Call Roger L. Newman Company at 982-5446 or visit online at rogerlnewman.com. Cooler temperatures are approaching. Upgrade your furnace now for as little as $50 a month.
Welcome back to the Blue Tick Tavern in downtown Maryville. It's Mike Edwards, and it's time for the Panel Shelter Insurance Bowl predictions for this week. Our Goatee Sports Page crew's here. Donnie Moore, Coach Ray Trail, and Marcus Fitzsimmons. And let's get into picking some of these games, guys. That's getting down to brass tacks and nails, so to speak, as far as the Final Four.
Crunch time.
Yeah, it's all going to be settled by Monday. You know who's going to be in there. Next week we'll be talking about who's going to be moving to the finals. But let's go around the table. Coach Trail, you've already talked about some of these teams, so let's get your picks for sure right here. You got San Diego State and Creighton. Who you like?
San Diego State.
Coach Trail's got San Diego State. Marcus?
I like San Diego State.
Okay. Donnie Moore?
Well, I was in Dr. Todd Klein's chair yesterday, and he's a graduate of Creighton, so I'm going to pick Creighton.
And I will pick Creighton. I like them
I like
inside. I like
Creighton.
them outside. It wouldn't surprise me if Creighton goes on to the final game.
Those sounds like defensive picks. Like you don't want to make the guy that's putting metal instruments in your mouth mad.
He treated me really good yesterday. So
yeah, but I can see San Diego State winning this game. I really can. I mean, they're playing real well.
Creighton's going to go to the Final Four.
But I'm.
How much money you want to put on that?
We don't put money on this show.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There's an app for that.
Well, he just sounds so positive. I just wanted to see how
he does sound.
positive.
I'm not so positive about. I'm picking him, but I'm not near that positive.
It's amazing.
I'm not ready to jump off the bridge.
No, I'm not.
It's amazing what you'll find yourself believing after Dr. Klein gives you some laughing gas and starts whispering stuff in your ear.
He said he'd been to Dr. Klein. I guess that's why.
Yeah, that was the day Tennessee played, and they came out of there liking Tennessee, didn't it? Yeah. Hey, Florida Atlantic and Kansas State. Marcus, I'll start with you.
I like Kansas State.
All right. Donnie Moore.
Wildcats.
And Donnie likes the Wildcats. Coach Trail.
I'm going to go Kansas State.
And I'm going to go with Kansas State.
We're 4 for 4.
That means they're going to lose. But okay.
We've picked them.
One thing
giving them
about
the curse, the sports
one
page
thing
curse.
about it, if we go, the truck goes over the cliff. Right? All of us are going.
We should have had a little bit more respect for Florida Atlantic last week than we had this week.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't have much respect for Tennessee against Duke.
No.
I don't think there's anybody picked Tennessee to beat Duke in the first place. But
No doubt.
If we were picking Florida Atlantic and Tennessee, I'd say all four of us going in would have probably taken the Volunteers.
Well, I'm taking the Duke next year. Put that down.
But I'll tell you what, I really like Kansas State's guards.
Yeah.
I like that Noel. He is a player, buddy.
He is.
Hey,
Is
it Marquis? I think it's Marquis, isn't it? Marquis Noel?
Marquise or Marquis.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What a player.
He's good.
20-some points last night, 20 assists.
He looks like he's just about 5'5".
20-some points and 20 assists. In the game before, he had, 27 points the game before. But I tell you, he's a real player.
He's good, yeah.
He is the best I've seen for a guy that size. I mean, he doesn't come up to the shoulder on both of those guys.
And listen, they can shoot it outside, and they can play inside with the basketball, play pretty good defense, and they're one of the two teams that's left out of the Big 12. What I like about them, I told you before the show, everybody wears the same kind of shoe.
Yep.
You don't see that much anymore.
No.
Back in the day, everybody wore the same shoe, but now –
now
everybody says, well, I'm an individual. I want to wear my shoe. I want to wear this color and that color and whatever. But they all wear the same colors. You like that. So I'm going to go with them. Texas and Miami. Donnie?
Texas and Miami. I'm going with Miami.
All right.
I think Miami's.
All right.
I may regret that.
I'm going to go with Texas.
I'm going to have to go with Miami. They're hot.
Okay.
They are hot. Troy will like that.
And who do you like, Marcus?
This is such a tough one.
It is a tough one.
It is a tough
I think
call.
Miami can pull this off, but I'm going to go with Texas just to aggravate Troy.
Well, the coach of Miami, Larinaga, been around a long time.
Yeah.
So you got a soft heart for a guy. Hey, maybe you should win a title here. You
should win something.
Yeah, you should win something.
Put a bunch in.
I was shocked the way they dominated Houston last night. They just absolutely
They
dominated them. Hey, UConn and Gonzaga. I'll take the first pick on this one, and I'm going to go with. I guess it's. I'm going to go with UConn. I'm going to go with UConn on that. And I'll tell you what, it's Danny Hurley, isn't it? Isn't he the coach there at UConn, the Hurley? I get all them Hurleys mixed up. There's several of them. Bobby Hurley.
There are several of those Hurley boys, aren't they?
Yeah, but you've got a Hurley there coaching UConn, and I'm impressed with the way they're playing. I'm taking them. So I've got two big East teams in the Final Four.
Wow.
Yeah. So, Coach Trail, who you like?
Oh, I like Connecticut.
All right. And Marcus?
Timmy. I'm going to take Gonzaga.
Okay. And Donnie?
I think I'm going to take the Zags, too.
All right. Can't shoot foul shots.
Well, you're right.
If it gets down to the end, boy, they couldn't hit one. They couldn't throw it.
If it comes down to free
but
throws.
they've been here and done that.
Yeah,
nobody thought they were going to get
really
back here.
Yeah, and that's another coach you'd kind of like to see win it all. He's been there for a while, and he's been to the Final Four. He's been close, never won it. Kind of a sentimental deal. The Lady Vols and Virginia Tech, real quick. Coach Trail?
Lady Vols.
All right. Trail's got the Lady Vols.
They got a possible player of the year.
I'm taking Virginia Tech.
Marcus has got Virginia Tech. Donnie Moore?
Where is that game being played?
It's out in Seattle out there. Just a few blocks up from the fish market.
The Lady Vols will have, I shall say they have jet lag, but
everybody will.
Everybody will, won't they?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
I've got that. They got a player of the year candidate. I can't pick the Lady Vols. I got to pick Vatek.
Well, I'd like to take the Lady Vols today, but they've only beaten one ranked team the whole year. Now they played everybody tough. Played a lot of teams tough, but they've only beaten LSU, a ranked team, this entire year. I'm going to go with Virginia Tech. I hate to do that.
What, 3 guys and they all pick Virginia Tech. Boy, y'all are some.
I know.
I don't want.
I know. And here we are.
I hope I'm wrong.
And a Vol for life, and I picked Virginia Tech. That's not good at all. But
we got to get out.
All right, Donnie Moore, you got a whistle.
I do.
Got to get out of here. It's been a good day.
It has.
Yeah. Hey, that'll do it for today's edition of the Goatee Sports Page. Thanks to Aaron Ishmael at Loud Media, our host, the Blue Tick Tavern, and all our sponsors. For Donnie Moore, Coach Ray Trail, Marcus Fitzsimmons, Troy Provo-Heron, and Brian Johnston at Goatees. Until next Saturday, this is Mike Edwards, the Greenfield Gunner, wishing everyone good sports.